Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 48 of Triumph Beyond Trauma. I'm your host, Rosie Skeen, and today I'm speaking with Anthony Eddy from the Yarramundi Veteran Shed. Before we dive into Anthony's story, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the incredible guests that we've had on this season and all of the seasons. Many have shared their books, their volunteer work, or the organisations that they've founded to support first responders and veterans. This isn't by chance. The calibre of these guests is intentional. I genuinely admire those who've turned their trauma into purpose, who've done the inner work and then stepped up to help others. That kind of transformation should be celebrated and shared. So if an episode resonates with you, please pass it on. You never know who might need to hear it. Sharing really is caring, and sometimes a single podcast can change your life. All right. With that said, let me introduce you to Anthony Eddy. Anthony Eddy joined the Australian Army in 1993 at just 19 years old, having grown up in the Riverina and playing AFL. Over a 30-year military career, he served as an air dispatcher and paratrooper, roles that saw him involved in the airdrop and external lift of cargo and equipment from aircraft. Much of his service was based at RAF-based Richmond, with postings that also took him to Holsworthy, Wagga Wagga, Brisbane and Randwick. Anthony deployed on multiple ADF exercises in New Zealand, Canada, the USA and Indonesia, as well as operational tours to Afghanistan and the United Arab Emirates. In 2015, he was diagnosed with PTSD and depression following years of physical injuries. After being deemed medically unfit, he discharged from the Army in February 2024. Now based in Penrith, Anthony continues to serve the veteran community. He is the Secretary and Treasurer of the Yarramundi Veteran Shed, established last year in 2024. He is the President of the Air Dispatch Association of Australia and Vice President of the Penrith RSL sub-branch. A passionate advocate for veterans' wellbeing, Anthony champions improved access to services in Western Sydney and believes in a collaborative, inclusive approach, one that bridges the gap between ADF and emergency service veterans for the benefit of all. Like I said, top-notch guests. Let's get into episode 48 of Triumph Beyond Trauma. Welcome to Triumph Beyond Trauma, the podcast that explores journeys of resilience and hope. I'm Rosie Skeen, a yoga and breathwork teacher and founder of Tactical Yoga Australia. As a former soldier's wife, mum to 3 beautiful kids and a medically retired New South Wales police officer with PTSD, I understand the challenges of navigating mental health in the first responder and veteran community. Join us for incredible stories from individuals who've confronted the depths of mental illness and discovered their path to happiness and purpose, as well as solo episodes and expert discussions. Together, we'll uncover the tools to help you navigate your journey toward a brighter, more fulfilling life. Whether you're looking for helpful insights, practical tips, or just a friendly reminder that you're not alone, Triumph Beyond Trauma has got your back. You matter, and your journey to a happier, more meaningful life starts right here. Anthony, welcome to the podcast. It's so good to have you here.
Thanks, Rosie. Yeah, I really appreciate the time and I suppose sharing the adventure and sharing what we're doing out the shed with everyone. It's good. It's a great opportunity. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. We usually just kick off with how you came to join your service, and for you, it was the Army. So I'd love to hear a little bit about maybe pre-Army, childhood, family life, all those things, and then coming into the Army and how that was for you.
Yeah, sure. I grew up in the Riverina in a broken family on a farm. Ended up being a bit of a Brady bunch. I was one of 9 kids. Number 4, only the 2 boys. So we're a lot of girls in the house in a traditional little world where the boys were outside and girls were inside. I suppose we lived through the droughts and the fires and things on a farm, and so we didn't do so well financially. I finished school went to Melbourne for a couple of years and then ended up in a place called Cobram, which is right on the New South border. Played sport, footy most of the time, AFL. Then in a lot of friends and I suppose bad people. I was involved in some groups, a lot of guys smoking marijuana and stuff, and I knew then that I wanted to get away from that. And military career was an honourable, good thing to do sort of thing. Yeah, joined at 19.
And what year was that?
That was 93, sorry. I finished year 12 in 92.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was 9 months later, it's time to be doing something now. didn't become the AFL superstar that I thought I was going to be.
Damn.
Yeah, damn right. And yeah, joined, and I suppose, like many, I didn't really ever think it was going to be a long career. I was going to do the 4 or 5 years and see what happens. 30 years later, I was still there, and yeah, pretty cool career traveling all over the world, Australia, parachuting, doing all that sort of stuff. And I'm a air logistics sort of guy in the army, so not predominantly a infantry or what they'd call now a warfighter.
Yeah.
Even though everyone does some of that. Yeah. So in the air logistics role, served in Afghanistan and the UAE for 6 months in Afghanistan, 3 months in UAE in logistic role, and was diagnosed with PTSD a couple of years after Afghanistan. Like many, I was trying to be too tough and ignored things were going on. And I was in sufferance. The family was probably in sufferance the most. And then it got to a point where things were just bringing me down and getting me cranky. So, yeah, and along with the mental health, knees, back, ankles, feet, head, all put together. And I was discharged February last year, medically. And I, like most, I didn't know what I was going to do, how that would look. Being that I'd done 30, I was 50 years old. It was a pinnacle time. So I knew it was on the cards because I'd already done a couple of jobs on repeat, a couple of years here, then moved and then back to the same job. And as you go up the tree, it gets tricky to have worthwhile jobs that mean stuff in the field. So on a different path to many, I told the doctor, there's that many injuries now, it's time for you to kick me out. So I took the reins of that and had my brain ready for what that meant. So I was pretty well prepared, and the family was prepared and was knowing what was happening. So different to many others where they're still fighting to be in the service or in their role, employed. I knew it was time. And now I'm more in volunteer roles, financially okay. She does like money. We both like money, but we're okay.
Yeah.
And we're doing okay. And that's the really big, important part that really, I think, scares most people or gives them that upon discharge. The worries, it's the financial, how are we going to survive? What does it mean? Do I have to go back to work again when I've got all these injuries and things? Can I work full time? And if you work full time, does that affect your pensions or whatever insurance that you've got?
Yeah.
So it's really tricky, but we're pretty lucky. I'm okay financially, and yeah, I'm really enjoying my volunteer roles because I think I highly encourage it because it's actually helping me. Helping others helps me. Because you're talking about things sometimes that you might not want to, or you wouldn't, to a psych or any of the counselling type people, but because you're relating to others who have been through similar things, it's easy to get off your chest, but it's also uncovering and it's getting out there. So that's been really good.
I think there's so many things in there that I want to come back to, but that part about volunteering and what you get out of it almost can't put it into words, can you? Like how much you actually get from giving to others or other communities.
My wife, and I think the family and everyone has this expectation. What are you going to do now? What work are you going to do now? And I'm like, first, my priority is to get me right.
Yeah.
Get the brain right. And my first 12 months, just surpassed, was just that. Look, I'm focusing on me and just doing as little or as much as I can do, which keeps me busy, which is good in my roles, because I can't just stop. I was too busy. My world's around doing many problems at once or many things, many projects as a project manager at the same time. So just thinking I was going to stop it's not a viable success plan, because I suppose I've learned from experiences that it just really, it's very difficult to do and find happiness.
Yeah.
So for me in particular, being busy is good, but it's about not having the overarching bosses or the directions that the workplace issues, and being able to choose my adventure on what things I want to focus on, because there are many. There's so many roles in veteran or any of the volunteer roles where you have people find themselves stuck in a job, volunteer roles. You can pick and choose what you want to do. And often it's self-imposed effort you're putting in, and to the point where the wife goes, why are you spending so much time at the sub branch? And I said, I'm actually enjoying it.
Yeah.
The sub branch, the shed, and my other association, she's running havoc. So yeah, so it's been really good for me, and the busy's good, but it's making sure I can get home on time, enough time to do the dishes, put the dishes away, put the folding away when the daughter doesn't do, balancing family life
It's
as
a
well,
balance, yeah.
which is really tricky. My family, the first 12 months, because I had postings to Amberley, Brisbane for a couple of years, Randwick a couple of years, and I was just always away with service life. So the first 12 months was a bit of a shock because I was home the whole time. I'm pretty sure my wife would have been happy for me to go away.
Yeah, I've had enough for a minute.
Yeah.
I'm not used to
Well,
it.
but the kids also, the kids are old, they're 18 and 23, but I was home the whole time. So it was unusual. So there's a whole adjustment for the whole family.
Yeah.
Just weekends are mine.
Yeah.
Are ours. We can do it with work life. Whether it was weekends or birthdays or Christmases, there was always something, and you miss a lot in service life. So that whole thing, that whole life at home has been an adjustment in itself. So being able to pick and choose my volunteer hours, let's call it, the roles I play, the roles I fill, it's been really important. I've probably taken on more than I need to, but I like it. I like the challenge, and I like to challenge the status quo and don't take things, let's call it, for granted. Not for granted, so take things just because someone says no. There's usually a way forward if we're willing to put the effort in. So I'm that guy, I suppose, and military probably made me that way, and helped me through that, through a lot of project management tasks. You can't just take no sometimes. You've got to go to the next level. How do I achieve?
Yeah, I think that's what's so important, I think, in any recovery journey, but especially trauma, and then coming from any military or paramilitary organization, is that a lot of choice gets taken away from you, especially in the military. There's not a lot of choice that you have in what you do, when you do it, and who tells you to do it, and any of that sort of stuff. So for you to be able to, it's come up twice now for me listening to you talk, the agency that you had in leaving is incredible, because like you said, a lot of people don't get to choose when they leave, especially in a PTSD situation where I think you're done. So for you to be able to have that agency would be incredible for your healing journey and coming out of that. But then also then saying, you know what, I actually want to do this now, and I'll do it on my time, like when I want to do it, which is probably something in that 30 years of your army career, you won't have to do a lot.
Oh, no, absolutely. And the opportunities, particularly with work, defence, any of the organisations, emergency service, it's always when you don't want it to happen.
Yeah, of course.
It's always
when you got something else
bushfires on the day you're going to the test cricket, or Christmas storms and floods and car crashes. And it's always when you don't want it, but the society needs your work, your body out there to do some stuff.
Yeah.
So being able to now choose what I do, I think for me it's been invaluable. And happy wife, happy life. I held back on medications through defence for a long time because, like many, the stigma behind PTSD, and then medications through defence. Anything you do through defence, all medications have to go through your defence doctor, so there's no hiding it. So then people, unfortunately, don't tell the defence doctors, don't get medication and don't have medication when they should be to get themselves back on track. So I didn't do that until 12 months before leaving. So when I'd made the decision in my own head without letting all my secrets out to the world, I was telling the doctor, it's time now and I want medication. And it all happened within 2 months of 1 month. There were good signs that my family was noticing that it was probably two parts. It was two parts because I'd made that decision in my own head and the family knew about it. But then the medication was the huge part of it, where everyone who knew me knew that I was just happier and more accepting. I think my children took advantage of my easy, relaxed attitude at some point. No, because there's things that they wouldn't say to me ever,
Yeah.
just even joking. And within a couple of months, I was a different person. And I could have those jokes that Dad should have with the kids at times, even though they knew the line. Yeah, so it changed me, and all for the better. I've got medical injuries still. My headspace is so much better. I'm not perfect. I still have my days, like all humans do, I think.
Yeah.
But my recovery or my falling into depression isn't so bad. And when I do, it's not as for long.
Yeah.
It's a bit easier to change the channel or switch, reset, as counselling we call it, resetting to get back on track. So it's become a lot easier because of the medication. And I really wish that had have been more available through defence without sacrificing your career.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people could continue on in a healthy career with medications, and they are now, but I suppose I probably missed that boat. And I understand that defence is getting better at it. I don't know about the police or the emergency services so much, but in the end, it's from a work side of things, they perceive it as a risk for someone with PSD or mental illness. They're a risk upon themselves or to the organisation somewhat if they're suffering, because tempers are often short, or they might react in a way that's not best practice.
And of course, in those organisations, like they do have access to
Absolutely
pretty hefty weaponry. I think there's another fear there, especially like in the cops, in the army, is that you're not able to do your job that you want to do as well. Like if you sidelines, and that's a real fear. And that, it's a hard one though.
Yeah, it is tricky because, as I said, my trade or my specialty is air logistics, and because I was at the rank I was, the senior rank in the army, I was able to do my job.
Yeah.
Because I'm a design, and we design things to throw out airplanes and stuff. So I wasn't, it's called on the tools so much. I was office environment, working with engineers. So it's more the qualifications which are fine. What defence, the usual issues for defence, not able to deploy, not allowed to handle weapons. And if you can't handle weapons, you're not current annually. So defence is tricky, especially with, it's generational. So as I said, because I was a bit senior, I was in the office environment, which most seniors hate anyway, because they like to be down doing the real stuff. So I wasn't affected by that, but it would be affect to promotions and possible deployments or postings elsewhere. But it's a stigma. You always want to be deployed.
Yeah.
You always want to be deployable. You always want to be promotable. I had no ranks to go up, and I wasn't becoming a commissioned officer, so I didn't really have that. But it's you can't be deployed or you can't do your job elsewhere. So a lot of people carry that, and as I said, probably unnecessarily sometimes, because they don't want the whole chain of command or the whole workplace to know that you've got mental health issues.
Yeah.
Even though it's all kept in staffing confidence. Strange enough, everyone knows about it pretty quick. So that's a trick. So the younger guys would, for Army in particular, it's all about our weaponry, our rifles, and having access to them. As soon as you have a mental health issue, and rightly say, remove access, they won't ask how you are, they'll just remove your access and say you can't touch it anymore. So you could ask me how I am first.
Yeah.
But that's the unfortunate part of it. They've got to protect everyone, including the member. So it is tricky, and I'm sure emergency services is the same.
Yeah.
They're interacting with the public more, and the police have the weapons as well, and things can go wrong, and interactions are really important. It's part of everything we do. It is tricky. I think that's getting better, but everyone's experience is different.
Yeah, for sure. And it's real. I've thought about it a lot, actually, like how do they get around that? But I don't think there's any getting around it, especially with the weaponry that we're talking about. It's so dangerous for everyone. So they
absolutely
protect everyone.
There's no getting around it.
There isn't, no.
It's just normalising the care that it's okay.
Yeah.
So people get it early rather than go deeper into the hole, I think is the key. And I think overall we're doing better, but it's still a long way off. And it's never going to be a solution.
Nah.
It's just how do we deal with it best, I think. Yeah.
I'm interested to know, especially because you were so aware of how you were going to leave, But just to go back a little bit, how your PTSD came about for you and how, if you noticed changes within yourself and how you decided to seek help, was it from your wife or your family, or is that something that was just inside you?
Yeah, it's a tricky question. I think I told you last week, but I was a recruit instructor for 3 years, and irrevocably, there's a level of being able to be the angry guy if you need to be,
Yeah.
or watch war movies. And there's a whole realm of what I would say now is acting, because I'm not really angry. His bootlaces aren't done up properly,
Yeah.
or he's missed a little bit shaving, but our role is to highlight the deficiencies, be angry, put them under pressure to bring them down. I've probably always had a bit of a short fuse not always, but since that time, it takes a long time to get that recruit trainer out of you. Saying that, I'm a 6'3" guy. I probably had too many punch-ups when I was young, living in the country, playing sport and all the rest. Not saying that's a good thing. It's the way we probably grew up a bit then. I probably, through my military career, I've probably been a strong person, opinionated, my children might say. I'm always right, thankfully. But after Afghanistan, did I notice straight away? No. I knew that I was affected to some degree because there was a lot of deaths when I got back. There was a heap of deaths that happened within a month or so after I got back, which was quite tricky. From a PTSD side thing, I didn't really realise until a few years later. And then it was affecting the family and at work.
Yeah.
Just with the short temper with what I thought at the time was stupid people, but it was more my understanding now, it's more about people who are not incompetent, people who don't have the ability or don't have the will to do what is required, even if it's a bit tougher. So complacency in the hierarchy, when they know things are wrong, why aren't you fixing it? So I'm okay with people who don't know, as long as they tell me they don't know.
Yeah,
we can work with it. But like many, I think it was the being dealt with by the chain of command when they could have helped things or did things differently for the benefit of everyone. Yeah. Then unfortunately, I got in a bit of a blue at a function, which highlighted there's some stresses going on, and that was the catalyst, to be honest. Unfortunately, that's probably too common these days. There's the clincher that sort of sets us off and go, wow, okay, something's really happened.
Yeah.
And yeah, then I started seeking help outside of defence initially through DVA to get it recognised and all the rest. And I was doing some counselling for a couple of years on and off. It was helpful, but it wasn't what I really needed, which was the medication. So it wasn't until I got on the medication that life changed, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose that's a little bit confronting to talk about, to be honest, because it's the whole journey. But that being open and honest, that's how it evolved. But it's such a better place now, and that doesn't mean I'm immune to the normal stresses of life. My wife, my children still set me off at times, but if that wasn't happening, there'd be something wrong.
Yeah.
I think you still got to have, and I suppose I'm luckier than some where the medication actually takes them too far with that calming effect, and then they become couch potatoes. They can't, and it's tricky. But so I think we've found a really good balance, and I'm reasonably comfortable to say that particularly now 14 months later, that balance with the volunteer work is really good, really valuable to mine. And I think because Defence has 12 months, you're paid the same on discharge. That was really valuable because it meant I had 12 months where I knew that everything was going to be the same financially, and it allowed me to ease in without too much of those stresses and go and do some of those volunteer works or jobs and seek medical support when I could without stress. That was good. I think really valuable, to be honest, because without it, it's stressful enough. And then not. And some people do. They have to go back to work straight away. There's no recovery. Unfortunately, they're going to go downhill because they haven't had the help they need to get through, or the recovery time, or the adjustment time, just adjustment to getting back to in their family or their community, which is also another real big part of it. Is now that you're missing your life team or the team that you share everything with, apart from your family,
Yeah.
you now haven't got that team anymore. Whilst you might have a few mates here and there, it's just not the same. And I think that's quite common across, particularly those who are medically discharged or medically ceased work.
I think too, with psychological injuries as well, it just adds that other layer on top. Like when you have a physical injury and people can see like you've got a bad back, you've got a crook back or something, people can see that physically you're a little bit different.
Yeah.
When you have a psychological injury, and I know this from my personal perspective, is that people pull back a lot more, whereas you might get a get well card or something if you have a back surgery or a hip surgery or something like that. When you go out with a mental illness, it's very different. And I think people are really concerned, and it's probably more so that they don't want to say or do the wrong thing to exacerbate it, which is very kind, but also that loss then of your work family or your colleagues that you work a lot with, that loss is even greater. And a lot of people struggle with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the sticks of hidden secrets that creates some of the anxiety, because now do they know? Why are they looking at me weird?
Yeah.
Are they looking at me weird? Some people probably don't even know, but you think that everyone's looking at you because you're the guy who just come back from a month's leave because you had stress leave.
Yeah.
It's just, it can be overwhelming, and then it's compounding, because then those people that you've talked so much crap to in the past about everything and anything, all of a sudden aren't having those deep conversations with, or they won't ask you anything about your mental health because, like you said, they just don't want to overstep the line or upset the apple cart, set you off, or make you feel, so they make you feel awkward. But in itself, it's actually creates the awkwardness and the anxiety and the isolation, which is, it's really tricky to deal with, which is, I suppose, segue to some degree into why I was part of setting up the Yarramundi Veteran Shed.
Yeah, let's talk about it, because I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, it's a place where literally we're all the same, and not all the same. There's a couple who didn't have medical issues or anything, where they come because they still feel the need and want for a team, and that's pretty much what we're focused on: is mental health, social inclusion, being yourself, being part of the team again, whether that's cooking scones or helping build a barbecue or fishing, cleaning the shed, repairing a Land Rover, which we've got. All those things, it's part of that. So it's been a journey. It started over a coffee in May last year with Megan, who owns Sanctuary Care, and Rick, who's RAR Printing, a printing business, shirts, T-shirts, hats and all that stuff, who live on the property. Rick is an ex-army guy. Megan owns an NDIS business. So on a 25-acre farm with 6 big truck sheds, which weren't being used so much because her late husband had them for trucks and they weren't being used to a great effect. Now the farm's got, being an NDIS-based business, they set up a recreation room, pool table, all those sort of things you'd have. And we saw the opportunity to develop the gardens, a new big kitchen, all of those things, because the facilities are fantastic. Just needed a little bit of work. And we knew that Western Sydney in particular had very little in the way of actual veteran support outside of mental health or the medical system.
Yeah.
Somewhere where you can just go and talk to other people without insurance or rehab or DVA or his doctor or someone running a note over you and writing a report on you, where people can just go and talk crap if they need to, talk to someone else about things, regurgitate stories of their horrors if need be, or how they've got access to services. Really important. And with the most part, it's been that people talking about their experience, which has helped others. From military, which I can talk most about, is all services that you just don't know are available until you're at that stage.
Yeah.
Like when you're in service, you get all these annual induction lectures and things, And you're thinking to yourself, why am I hearing about these things that are designed for 60-year-olds who are all busted when I'm 25 and I'm fit and healthy? Most people just go straight over the top because it's not important, or it's not relevant. It is important, but it's not relevant to the human at the time, right? So then you go through all this stress of discharging or finishing service, and then, holy, how the hell do I do that? How do I get this? How is that even done? And a lot of guys, which is helpful when you're getting older, I love repeating themselves, but no, they share those stories of how they got access to a thing, even to the point where a specialist doctor writes reports really well for DVA or veterans or police or whoever that might be, because they were an ex-service person themselves, or they just know it because they've been doing it for a long time. That's one of the big things that does get shared the most, is how people have dealt with it, who they've seen, where the good places are to go. And we have, whilst we're not a direct service provider, we have references for everything. So we welcome pamphlets and flyers and information about everything, because it might be that one thing that someone's looking for one day, or one thing that someone talks about and we go, actually, there's a pamphlet over there. But sometimes they just don't know, and those things come up. And it's been really important to have that available, because they're all conversation fillers when you don't quite know. We're mindful, obviously, too, as a committee, not to give any professional advice, because that's not our job. And it can get a little bit hairy when people start giving advice to someone, and everyone's so different. You just can't say what's what. So, yeah, it's been really good. We're building slowly, which was amazing. We have to pull the reins a little bit on the ideas and the ambitions, because we don't have a bag of gold. But yeah, it is doing what it. Yeah, I think everyone who goes there is really enjoying it and valuing it. It's becoming their routine, their weekly routine, which is great.
I was just going to ask you, do you have certain days and times that you regularly catch up?
Yeah, so every Thursday we're open from 10 o'clock to say 9 o'clock at night, which we do. Normally it's 10 to 5 for the normal day, but at the moment, and our plan is to have night classes on a Thursday. And I say classes being mentor groups, so other veterans running. We've currently got a great guy called Steve, who's a great knife maker. He makes knives from nothing, and all sorts of, you can imagine it, which is probably not great with people with PTSD, but happily and healthily, we're all safe. So he guides people through the making process. It's not a qualification course or as such. He just guides people, shows them how to do it, and gets them to a point where they finish off with laser edging their name on it, or however they want to do it, so they've got their own keepsake. We're finding that, and that's currently underway now. I think we're week 4 of 6 for that, and going really well, because the guys, there's a lady and a man doing it that is loving it, because it's a whole new skill. But they're also talking to Steve, who's a great bloke, sharing their experiences, learning some new things, and they're at the shed, so they have the facilities, the kitchen, everything available there. Thursdays is our main day, open until 9 o'clock, but we will be opening very shortly for one Saturday a month to try and cover, and that was what Thursday nights are about, those who are working or those who have other things in their life. So yeah, once a month on a Saturday. As I said, we share that with the NDIS business, because there's veterans and NDIS is a lot of children. We've got to keep our distance a little bit. Military and emergency services people say some funny things at times. Not so funny. Children. Not for children, yes. And our dark humour doesn't always go down so well. So we keep our distance. It doesn't mean we don't work with them. There's sometimes we interact, but we've got to be careful. We've got to make sure the right people are healthy and safe and allowed to do all that. So we're not, so it's a little bit tricky of its own, because people go through stuff, but we've got to keep everyone safe. Yeah, it's really, that part of it's growing, and we're getting more people over the last 12 months who said, I can't really do a Thursday, but Saturdays I could. So we're confident that'll bring a few more in.
Yeah. And so is it, because it's called Yarramundi Veteran Shed, which is so good. And you just said in your knife making course, there's a woman in that one as well, and women, but it's not just for defence veterans, is it? You have
That's right.
Yeah.
So it started off that way. I'll be open and honest. It started off military guys coming up with an idea.
Yeah.
But it very quickly turned into noting that as I said, Western Sydney's got bugger all for military type people or veterans. We quickly realised that it's the same for emergency services, if there's anything in Sydney, for a shed-like environment. And I think some people get a little bit scared by the shed, but there's a shed there, but it's pretty much do what you want. So it's not a men's shed. It is pretty much a social gathering. It is certainly open for any first responders, any military, emergency service, and to the point where we permit, we allow, we welcome friends. So without being too crazy, if you've got a brother-in-law, dad, cousin, mate that you do things with and they could want to come along, you know what? It's more than welcome. We've got a few people who actually bring their dad along. Every now and then we get a young parent with a child for the day. Fantastic. In the end, those people, they're adults, they're responsible to look after them, but there's no reason why they can't be part of the relaxed environment we're trying to create. In the end, we're all trying to get on with life and, I suppose, help where we can, if we can. And a lot of the things that we do end up being, everything turns into a group activity somehow, even though some people are there, but they just want to go fishing for the day. They'll go fishing for an hour, but they'll see the guys working on something, and then we end up having 20 people stand around and one person doing the work. So it sounds like government work. But,
like council.
yeah.
I think what you're doing is really incredible, like just for obvious reasons, but the connection that you would be creating through the groups and for people leaving organisations like ours, I think what can happen is it can be very isolating.
Yeah.
A lot of people go through marriage or relationship breakdowns, which is further isolating. And to create a community where people can just turn up and be as involved or not as they like, I think that's just so needed. And there's, like you said, there's hardly anything out where you are.
Yeah.
And for first responders, there's probably bugger all too.
Absolutely.
I think that's just so incredible to foster that connection.
Yeah, and I think
like-minded people.
Yeah, and I think getting a little bit mindful, whilst we are advertising through social media and the rest, and the word is getting out. We had quite a successful opening day in October. Over 140 people turned up.
Wow.
People from everywhere and all services, fire trucks and the local, everyone turned up. It was good. It was fantastic. But now the ambition, our immediate goals are to try and get into the brain powers of those discharge or transfer cells. So defence discharge people. So the transition authority and the services is no different, but so that people know that when they are going through particularly medical separation or separation not at their choosing, they have a place where they can spend half a day or whatever they choose whilst that's occurring to create some links in the community. And whether that's friendship links or just someone you know, because there's a bit of everything. There's some fabulous guys and some guys that come for a coffee and a brew and a bit of a chat and they're pretty okay. They've got their friendship groups, and then there's others who are quite lost, just looking for some people. And that we've experienced that from all the services so far for different reasons, but everyone just creating those linkages and the far extending just at the shed, becoming where people are meeting up as real friends and going out, because that's what you want to see, right?
Yeah.
And some people, that's not for them. They want to keep them away from each other. Like, speak from my experience, my wife in particular, she's always been married and had the army life, and now army's my thing at work. Whilst Narelle will come to a function and things like that, she usually leaves the military stuff alone. Probably a bunch of old weird old guys, the dark humour. She gets it, but it's her things, her work and her friends. And so that's absolutely okay. I suppose it gives a place where everyone can choose how you want to do it.
Yeah.
If you want to bring your wife out and or your kids out, you can do that. If you don't, that's cool too. And you work out, there's no hard and fast rules. We're just trying to be relaxed and safe, and our insurance covers all of those things. So it's not a big bother. Like most organisations, we have a sign-in sheet to keep our insurances in order, and really that's all we need to do. Obviously, our goal is to build our membership, continue to build our membership. We have about 35 to 40 registered members at any one time. I think probably 20 turn up on a shed on a Thursday. So,
Just
so
in
that's
relation
so
to
it's,
membership, sorry to cut you
yeah.
off, but does it cost anything to become a member?
No, it's free. We're ambitious. I don't know about ambitious. I think we're realistic to keep membership free. So really, our only cost is insurance, with exception to anything that project we want to try and achieve. And we've had a bit of support, luckily, through New South Wales Club grants, and this year we're applying elsewhere in the Hawkesbury for a bit of funding. A couple of sub branches gave us some money, so it helped us buy little things, tools, necessary items. We've got a lot of donations from organisations just for our garden stuff. Bunnings, North Penrith donated a whole heap of timber and for make garden beds. A rock place donated big rocks for the gardens and soil, and everything's been sponsored to some degree, which has been fantastic.
Beautiful, yeah.
And yeah, even Boral Concrete are now donating a truckload or more of concrete for us for our barbecue area. And luckily we have a policeman who's currently medically discharging, or he's an ex-brickie. So,
Oh, no.
so barbecue is under control.
Andy.
Yeah, and it is. We've got a real good bunch of guys and girls who bring all different skills. I don't bring much to the party, but I'm good at telling people what to do.
You got to organise it. Come on, you got to organise it.
Yeah, I'm not much of a doer, they say, but yeah, I'm a watcher.
That's so good. So what have you got coming up? Is there anything, you've got your knife making classes happening now?
Yeah, so the plan is the knife make courses are dependent on Steve, if he's travelling or not, and then the group, what they want to do, but he's planning to do as many or as little as we want to do throughout the year, running a 6-week program, because that gives the opportunity. It's probably longer than it needs to be, but if everyone's got things in the road, and that means they can miss a week or 2 weeks and still get what they need to be done. We're also trying to do a similar sort of thing with welding in the short term. With MIG welding, you're not going to be a qualified blacksmith or engineer, but you can fix things around on the shed, or you can fix your own things at home if you have a welder. So it's just mentoring type groups, and I think that's our target, really, because that does a couple of things. It reduces the cost of having an instructor, a licensed instructor. It reduces the insurances, but most people just want to give it a try. Give it a try and see how hard or how difficult it is to get the skills, and just learn a little bit. I think I'm not a welder, but I'd love to be able to just do a little bit to fix a trailer up, or do some little things that, instead of paying someone or getting someone else to do it. So, and we've had a lot of interest in that. The difficulty we do have is, and it's about our humans, is the people we do have turn up. It's in their routine every Thursday. That's fantastic. But then we have it on Thursday night. It doesn't always match when we're going to do it. So we're looking at possibly Thursdays and or Saturdays. And if we get if people tell us what they want to do and it all works out, we'll do it when they want to do it. But we're limited to Thursdays, mainly because our donors, our sponsors, they don't charge us rent for the Thursday, and we've got to honour them as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you're going to make sure that their business is still getting everything they need. Because on the Thursdays, they still have clients. They just make sure they're not in our immediate area.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna look after them as well. But yeah. So yeah, we do have, I suppose, the knife making, the welding, small wood class groups, same sort of thing, and just power tools for men and women who, if they're not so familiar with those sort of tools, they can come and learn the basics and then practice it a little bit. Sometimes you've just got to do it. Get out there and cut some things up. If you haven't used a circular saw, get in there and just cut it until you're comfortable. And most of the time, that doesn't need a qualified carpenter or a specialist. It needs someone who knows how to use it to make sure people can do it safely. So I suppose to be clear, we're bound by rules of the Australian Men's Shed Association. They're the governing body for sheds all around Australia.
Okay.
And you can have membership under them and insurance through them. So our organisation perfectly fits women and men, military, it's all absolutely fine. They have no issues with the constitution or your membership base, but we have to have a skills register. We have to have induction training to some degree to make sure everyone knows what they can use, what they can't use on the property. Rick has some big industrial machines for his printing and laser cutting timber and steel and stuff. So we don't want anyone jumping on those machines.
No.
because it'll take arms off and they cost a lot of money. So we're doing things right, I think, in a new, more modern way than what I have heard some sheds get up to in men's shed environment.
Yeah.
And that's no hack to them. It's more some of the sheds with older people stuck in their era of training and assessment. And I'd like to think I have a more modern approach to that, instead of telling someone they're now under a big assessment and you'll either pass or fail.
Yeah.
It's about competency-based training, and if you can show me you can use it, we're good to go. A common sense approach. And most of the time, so far, we've had no issues with people just saying, I've never used one of them. Sure. Let this guy over here show you how to use it and make them safe and make sure they can do it before they get ticked off. But keeping it really simple is the key to us. Simple inductions, but also it helps with simple administration and not getting tied down by too much paperwork.
Red tape's such a killer for organisations trying to do good things sometimes.
Yeah, I think we've got a pretty good approach to it. I look after most of that side of the governance side of it, bit of background in WHS with work. So I'm pretty familiar with too many policies.
Yeah.
And then finding a right balance, but doing it justice and keeping everyone safe. Yeah. Without going over the top. Because if I can find an easier way to do it, yeah, I'm always for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where can people find out more information about the shed?
Yeah, that's a good question. The Facebook is our main thing at the moment. We received a grant from Microsoft for not-for-profits, which is our database, our email systems and all that. Currently, the only email up and running is the secretary email, but Facebook is our best contact because at the moment that's our weeklies, weekly posts, tells everyone what we're doing, where we are, and they can contact either of us, Rick or myself, through that. However, we do have a website is being built right now. So if you visit www.Yarramundi Veterans Shed, spelt complete, .org.au. Yeah, you'll see the website, but it's, as I said, it's in construction. But I can certainly send more info about that later on. Yeah, so our social network, Facebook, is our main one, and once the website is up, it will send a live feed, a feed from Facebook's anyway to it.
Yeah.
And we're also sharing it around with some of the mental health support workers in the area, and we've had some success with that where guys and girls didn't know about it, and yeah, the next day they turn up because that info was shared.
Yeah, so good. Word of mouth.
Yeah, we're a work in progress, and we are. I suppose we, like many, we don't know where we're going to end up in 12 months' time. It's a bit of a journey, and like everything, there's teething and things we need to work out on the way. But overall, that's a committee sort of thing, and everyone who comes out just enjoys the time, whether it's having a coffee, spending the day, or whether they're out there for half an hour. There's some people do that. They've got medical appointments and they duck off, which is cool.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. Is there anything else that you want to cover before we wrap up?
Oh, I don't know. I could talk all day.
Yeah.
I'm just really excited. I'm in a few roles in the veteran community, and I think I suppose my personal opinion, I think I've mentioned it before in emails, I think Western Sydney has been left behind a little bit in the veteran community. And when I say veteran community, all of emergency services as well. Military particularly, that I know of, is lacking. But emergency services, I think the government needs to be doing more for that. And I think personally, and I speak for no one but myself, that I think there's opportunities in the military veteran community to share with the emergency services more with our available resources. And when I say resources, it does get tricky because military veterans and DVA and things are specific about supporting military veterans. So when seeking funding for projects like ours, it can get a little bit debatable and heated on whether people can access it.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to nurture is those relationships, but explain to them that it can all be done the right way if people want to support those organisations by supporting something tangible. Sponsor a garden bed, sponsor the barbecue, a building of the barbecue, because it's not just, even though the military people will get initial benefit, they're going to be shared with lots of people, like any community space. And I think, to me, the way that the military and the emergency service people have interacted at the shed, and I honestly thought it'd be a bit, particularly, could have been a little trickier. but actually it's been quite wonderful. And maybe we just got lucky with the right people who were looking for that sort of thing. And everyone's got along perfectly. We're all humans, and it doesn't mean everyone's going to be best friends, but everyone gets along and plays the right game because they're there for the same purpose or the right purpose.
Yeah.
And I think military is one whole big level of group togetherness, and the ambos are one thing, and then the fire is another thing, and the coppers, they're another one, because that is their life of keeping a line, keeping the circle tight. And I imagine, and I'm no expert on it, but I'm starting to understand how that can be even more tricky for them. So I think you'd have to talk to our guys who are of that way just to see how they feel about it.
Mm.
But I know they're doing great things, and you can see that they just want to come to the shed, help out, do their bit. And the social part of it has been really good for them, because they realise that we're all somewhat similar. We've all played in our team, whatever it was, for so long. We'll chewed up and spat out, and it's okay to have problems because we've all got them.
Yeah.
So that, to me, I'm seeing even just this last 6 months more and more, I suppose, because I've never been in that space, in the emergency service support area. It's a growing space, but I think there's so much opportunity for collaboration between organisations, and I'm grateful for you having me today and talk, and we welcome everyone out, I suppose.
Yeah. Awesome. I think it's so important to just share resources. Like
Absolutely.
we said earlier, you just don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
And unless someone tells you, then usually you don't know.
Yeah.
Good at finding things on the internet.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for sharing your own personal journey, and then also about the shed, because like I said, I think it's an incredible resource, and thank you so much for coming on.
No worries. Thank you. And good luck with everything. I'll see you again.
I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you have, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss any new ones. We release fresh content every Tuesday. And while you're there, take a moment to leave us a review. I would genuinely appreciate your thoughts. Don't forget to connect with me on Instagram and Facebook at Tactical Yoga Australia, and share this episode with your friends, family and workmates to spread inspiration. Your support means the world. My name is Rosie Skeen. Join me again next week for another empowering and positive episode of Triumph Beyond Trauma. Until then, be kind to your mind and trust in the magic of your consistent and positive efforts. Triumph beyond your trauma is closer than you think. Have the best week.